Hi, Jeff and Kiko. My name is Dr. Alex Stewart, and I was hired by your real estate agent, Carrie Duffy, to do an independent pricing plan for your property at 1136 Van Buren Street. And the whole idea is I have no incentive in whether you buy or sell or what you list at or anything like that. And so my job is to give you something that is credible and valuable and independent to let you know where you should price your home. Who am I before we even get too far? Well, I was a financial analyst for several years, and then I was a mortgage banker for a long time, where I worked hand in hand with appraisers to learn how to price properties, how they view the market, understand the financing process, all of that. And after getting my doctorate from the University of Florida, I created a company called the Market Distillery. And the whole purpose of the Market Distillery is to help real estate agents and their clients make informed decisions based on data and local market stats. Okay. And we're going to go over 5 different sections today that are going to give you a logical progression on what's going on in the market, what's going on locally here, and leave us with a recommended pricing plan at the end. We're going to start by looking at the specifics on the property just to sort of make sure we're all on the same page. So this house, it was purchased for $305,000 in 2023. Okay. And it was $129 a foot, and it was 2,365 feet, including the in-law suite. Right. So it's a 3-3. I know there's a couple bedrooms in the in-law suite that don't technically count as bedrooms. Does not have a pool, but it does have a private backyard, including the covered area, the workshop, all that stuff. And one of the things that appraisers do to help compare properties is they rate them based on quality and condition. Those go from a 6 all the way up to a 1 being the best, 6 being the worst. And we start with quality. So in this case, this home would be rated a Q4. You can read through that here, but basically it's not a custom home. It is of sort of builder grade or slightly better quality. And that's essentially all of these homes. You know, this isn't necessarily one of those Victorian traditional Springfield homes that you're used to, but it is an older home. And condition wise, it comes into C4, which means that it's got normal wear and tear. Maybe there's some deferred maintenance that's got to be due, but nothing that's totally disrepaired, out of function, all of that stuff. I do know that you guys did some repairs on the foundation, and there's still some challenges maybe with the floor and the countertops because of that I know we'll have to address in the future. And the one thing I wanted to call out is, when the home was purchased, a $10,000 credit was provided. So even though the price was $305,000, that's essentially like getting it for $295,000. Okay. Now, if we look at what's going on in Jacksonville, this gives us a good sort of big picture point of view. And in general, rates are still relatively elevated compared to when you bought it, right? We're sitting at 6.25, 6.5, depending on the day. We have more homes on the market now at 8,700. It's not flooded by any means. It's not too many homes. It's just a lot more than it was back in 2021, 22. Should be roughly similar to when you bought it. The prices have largely gone sideways in Jacksonville. Ever since rates went up, we have not seen prices continue to rise. There's a lot of reasons for that, but it's worth noting because anyone who bought within the last few years and is trying to sell again, they're running into the challenges of prices not necessarily growing and them not seeing their sale price change much. We do, though, have a decent amount of activity. We're seeing 2,000 sales a month in a lot of cases, and the pace of sale is quickening. We got down to 37 days on market on average in Jacksonville. So there's a lot of people that want to buy houses here. There's just a lot of give and take between buyers and sellers to make that actually happen. And when it comes to predicting the market, we can't predict interest rates, but we can look at these seasonal patterns called seasonality that help us understand what normally happens in Jacksonville depending on the month. And we start off with how many homes are for sale. And it's normal to see the number of homes for sale rising every single month all the way through the summer and then kind of dip off in the holidays. And so we're right in the thick of that. This blue line is what normally happens. The orange line is what is happening so far this year. And we have seen that increase in new listings, and we should continue to see more listings on the market, which does a little bit mean more competition for you. On the other side, though, we do typically have more demand in the market this time of year. This is a great time to sell simply because there's a lot of buyers out there. They're trying to make their moves before school comes back in, and there's more daylight to see homes. So we're right in peak season there. And this is sort of, again, that underlying story of we have a lot of activity, but prices are sort of stuck. They're not going down, but they're not going up that much. And so normally we see prices rise throughout the spring into the summer. This year, just like last year, we're sort of underperforming and prices are not rising that much, which just means that sellers can't push price as hard in sort of the normal year that we're used to seeing. Now, we also see this dynamic where when you list a house, if you don't price it right up front, what happens is the seller typically has to give more to get that home sold. So what this dark green bar is showing us is that when people were on the market and sold within the first month, which a lot of people did, they got 97% of what they listed the home for on average. Okay, so not bad. They only had to come down 3% from their list price. The average credit was $8,000. So just like when y'all bought this house, it is still very normal to see sellers giving credits to buyers so that they can get lower interest rates or address some sort of repairs or things like that. And so you guys will likely have that sort of situation when you sell the home. But what the rest of this chart is showing us is that the longer it takes to sell, so 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, the longer it takes to sell, the more the seller really has to give to get that home sold. So it's really, really important that we get the price right up front, because the people that try to test this high price and then they end up having to drop it even more than they would have if they'd have just gone to the right price up front. So that's why we put a lot of emphasis on this. Now, if we zoom into your neighborhood, we can sort of see, is it the same where you live as it is in Jacksonville proper? And the way that I have pulled the numbers for your neighborhood is by using these things called MLS areas. All they are is these sub-markets where the MLS, which is the tool the realtors use, has defined. And 76 is East Side, and you can tell it's separated from Springfield over here, which is 72. But I pulled all of the downtown East Side stats for us, and I'm only looking at single family homes to come up with these numbers. And this is supply and demand. So the yellow line is showing us how many homes are for sale. And you can see that we have 40 houses on the market right now compared to 30 back in 2022. That's not a lot number wise, but it's a pretty big percentage. So there's just more houses on the market right now. Sales have not changed though. So we have more homes for sale, and we haven't really seen more buyers come into the market. On average, we're only selling about 6 homes a month in this area. And when we look at prices, you'll notice that this price is a lot lower. And that's just because there's a lot of really small houses around here and a lot of lower price points. But prices have not really gone anywhere dramatic, right? We started at 128, we're at 136. And they've drifted down the past few years. But this just, again, shows you that the market is not continually growing. And until we get lower rates, until people become more confident, until something else changes, we expect to see this kind of movement. And when it comes to negotiation, this market is especially hard hit. A lot of other markets, we're not seeing these kind of stats, but in this East Side area, we've gone from sellers getting 96% of what they listed for to an average of 86% so far this year. So the way that these sales are happening is that sellers are really giving a lot more. They're negotiating a lot more with buyers and giving up parts of their prices to get the home sold. And on top of that, it's starting to take longer to sell. We're nearly double the time frame to sell a house as we were back in 2022. And so just know this is not exactly a tide coming in market currently. And so we need to know that and use that when it comes to pricing this home. Now, if we were to jump into specific homes to consider, I had to break this into two separate areas, just like, we talked about. There's East Side and Springfield, and they're right next to each other. In fact, this is a case where there's not really any line of demarcation. There's no line that says, okay, that's Springfield, except for there's some train tracks. And I think, it's good to know that the numbers are very different depending on which side you're on. But I do think a buyer looking in this area is going to consider Springfield just as much as East Side, if not more. And so we got to understand that's sort of our competition, even though the numbers are very different. And when we look at the price per square foot on these homes, green means it's an active home. It hasn't sold. Orange means it's on its way to selling. It's got a contract on it. It's pending. And blue means it's sold. But you can see that the prices in East Side range from 65 a foot to 200, whereas in Springfield, it's more like 150 to almost 300. You have smaller homes in East Side, and you have larger colonial looking homes in Springfield. And it's just, it's something that we need to be aware of, because sometimes people want to price their home using Springfield prices, but you got to remember that you're in East Side. And so that changes the way that you approach this. Yet at the same time, we got to consider what is on the market in Springfield, because it is your competition. And so, when I pull the houses that I think are relevant to you, we have this list, and I've highlighted a few of them that we're going to walk through specifically. And you'll notice a lot of these are in East Side, but they're lower sizes. And that's tough because you don't really have a great apples to apples comparison. Your home is more unique. It's a larger property in an area that doesn't have a lot of larger properties. And that can go both ways, right? Like in some ways it's a benefit, but some other ways it creates a challenge because it's not that clean for us to be able to give you great advice on pricing it. But we'll work our magic here, and we'll go through these and come up with something. Okay. So let's look at these specific houses first. Here is what I would say is sort of your competition. Like if I was looking for a house that was larger in this area, sort of in that 2,000 foot range, this is what you find. It's in Springfield. It's got that colonial look, and it's updated, but not fully renovated necessarily. It is listed at $419. Okay. So it's about $200 a foot, and it's only been on the market for 18 days. So this is something that I think, buyers in your market might be considering. Also, this one is under contract. So it's not all the way through the process, but somebody has agreed to buy this, and it was listed at $324,900 when it went under contract. We don't know the exact price that they agreed to on this. We just know that, it is something that is seeing a buyer say, yeah, I want that, and they're under contract on it. It was on the market for a long time, though, 241 days. So my guess is that the price they agreed to is definitely lower than what you see on the screen here. It's a little bit smaller, 1,700 square feet. But again, it is updated. It is got that colonial look. It's just not as big as yours. And then here is the sold comp. Sold for $400,000, and this matters the most because we know that this is a real sale. We know the final numbers. It is only on the market for 2 days, so that's a big deal because it is something that sold quickly. The price was something that was very attractive, and you look at the pictures. This is renovated, updated. It is a lot higher end, I would say, than some of these older houses that maybe have a lot of lipstick on them. They did get a $16,000 credit when they bought it as well. Okay. 2,200 feet. So it's closer to the size that you have. And so these are the comps we use. And if we look at, a pricing plan based on all this information. I start with the advantages. Your home is larger for the area. It's got the in-law suite, which I think can be really attractive for maybe some multi-generational. If somebody's got mom and dad, or just maybe mom, maybe they got some kids at home with them and they want to give them a separate area, whatever it is. It's also in an area that's going to benefit from the revitalization of downtown. I actually just bought a house on Odessa Street, not too far from you, that's a rental. And that is because I see the vision of downtown. I see that in 2 or 3 years, I think that a lot of these properties will, potentially be in more demand because downtown will be a lot nicer. And in general, this house has great rental potential because it's got the in-law suite, because it is larger. And I've sent Carrie some numbers on what this might rent for with an Airbnb kind of approach. And so that's something to take a look at. On the challenges, though, property value has been flat since you bought this house. That's a big sort of barrier on realizing a whole lot of value there. Sellers are having to give more to get a home sold, and you guys have some repairs that are needed. So you might have to structure in a credit to make that make sense. But the range on the price per foot, the range on the price per foot is 130 to 160. Okay. And we're listing in the perfect time. You should get the most for your money at this time of the year, compared to in the winter or the fall or first in the year. And so it gives me these scenarios because I don't think there's just one price for any house. I think it's based on your level of urgency and sort of what's going on in the market. And so if you have a high level of urgency and or there's low demand in the market, I think that you guys are going to be 130 to 139 a foot, which puts you at 307 to 329. If there's medium urgency, medium demand, it's going to be more like 331 to 350. And if there's low urgency and or really high demand, then you're going to be more like 355 to 376. And I think that truthfully, you guys are going to be somewhere in this medium urgency. I don't know that we could say that there is high demand in this market just based on what the market's showing us. But it's also, it could be a high urgency situation for you. It just depends on what your details are. So you guys can take this information and talk to Carrie, ask questions, go over it, and determine exactly where you'd like to start the house in the market. And if she has any questions that she needs help with, she can reach out to me. But I wish you the best on getting this property sold, and I hope you take care.